नया IBN 7 हौसला है.
We're in Canada, we're in Toronto, and this is Lake Ontario. You will hear some seagulls behind us right now as well. But we have someone very, very special out here. We have with us Mr. Patrick Brown. He heads the Indo-Canadian Congressional Committee, and he also is the chief ministerial candidate of Conservative Party here in Ontario, and the election is on May 3rd. But his biggest introduction for India is he is Patrick Bhai.
Patrick Bhai is how I like to be referred in Ontario.
Now, why does Mr. Narendra Modi call you Patrick Bhai?
Well, I've had the privilege and the honor of visiting India 15 times, including 9 visits to Gujarat, where I was able to get to know Narendra Modi when he was Chief Minister during that period of incredible success that he had as Chief Minister. And I like to say that I'm as comfortable in Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad, Baroda or Surat as I am in Toronto, Ottawa, Brampton or Barrie.
Okay, and when did you first meet Mr. Narendra Modi?
At the Vibrant Gujarat conference in 2009, and I found his passion for creating the conditions for prosperity to be completely impressive but contagious, and the way he put a focus on driving economic development in Gujarat, I always thought to myself, boy, would this be a model to emulate in Ontario and in Canada.
And to the extent that your motto out here in the elections is?
I want to build a vibrant Ontario. I want to showcase Ontario to the world in the fashion that Narendra Modi did with Gujarat. He built a dynamic, vibrant Gujarat, and I want to build a dynamic, vibrant Ontario.
This is fascinating. Mr. Patrick Brown saying, just like you have vibrant Gujarat, he wants a vibrant Ontario. Now, what does it really mean in terms of India and Canada?
Well, I think we're reaching a point where there is a flourishing of our friendship. You know, you are seeing Indo-Canadian businesses working back and forth. We're about to see the first state visit to Canada in 43 years by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It's a very special time in the Canada-India dialogue. We always knew there was a relationship-to-relationship connection given the huge Indian diaspora in Canada, but I think we're about to see a flourishing in that economic relationship, which will be to the benefit of both India and Canada.
They say the G20 summits, the G8 summits, the way they've been built is primarily because chemistry between leaders matters a lot. Now, when it comes to Mr. Modi, how does the Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Stephen Harper, look at him?
Well, I think Prime Minister Harper is excited about the relationship. You know, they talked immediately after Narendra Modi's election as Prime Minister. They had a great one-on-one meeting at the G20 in Australia, and the fact that Narendra Modi is coming here so soon after his election as Prime Minister, I think shows an indication of the willingness to work together. And let's not forget that it was Canada that was the very first co-sponsor, country co-sponsor of the Vibrant Gujarat summits that occurred in Gujarat. When much of the world shied away from Gujarat, Canada was there with pride.
Tell me one thing, Canada seems to be, and Canadian leaders seem to be very, very pragmatic in the sense of, with Vibrant Gujarat, you were the first. With supplying uranium to India, Canada was first. So a lot of firsts out here, and also, Mr. Modi trusts you and many Canadian leaders a lot because you stood with him in his tough times. When the whole Western world did not want to touch Modi, including Britain and US, do you think they made a mistake?
I think they did make a mistake. I think some countries got confused by politically motivated trials. Narendra Modi is a good man, and Canada was quick to realize it. Here was an individual that was working his hardest to make his state successful. He was doing everything he could to eradicate poverty, to bring jobs to a state that needed it. And Canada recognized that early on, and I think it's one of the reasons we have this very special, warm friendship with India and Prime Minister Modi today.
Last year, the trade between India and Canada was only $6.3 billion, whereas some years ago, we had decided together that by 2015 it will go to $15 billion at least. Do you think there are some key decisions that Mr. Modi needs to take while he's in Canada now?
I think one of the key roadblocks was having an Indian Prime Minister who was action-orientated. I think we finally have that with Narendra Modi. There are some key important discussions that are taking place. Obviously, the economic framework agreement is particularly important. But I still believe the goal of tripling the trade between Canada and India is possible. And I think now that we have an Indian Prime Minister and a Canadian Prime Minister who have chemistry, who have similar conservative philosophical underpinnings, I think you're going to see a flourishing of that relationship.
Also, you've been to India how many, 15 times?
15 times.
What is it? What is it that, first attracted you towards India, and what made you stay there?
Let me say, first what attracted me to Gujarat is I saw this man who understood to build prosperity, you had to create the conditions for prosperity. I looked at the cities he built, like Gandhinagar. You built the roads to get product to marketplace, you had cheap power, you had no red tape, and I was envious. I mean, there's an example that I want to bring to Canada. But in my journeys to India, not only have I learned about a model for economic development, but I have seen a country that is incredible. I was up in Ladakh in Leh, where they actually play ice hockey, not field hockey, ice hockey. I was at the Golden Temple that in Amritsar that takes your breath away. I was in the backwaters of Kerala, which is one of the most beautiful, magnificent sights of nature you can imagine. And then I'm in Mumbai, which is a mosaic of culture and activity. How can you not love visiting a place like that?
You've also run the marathon in Mumbai?
I love sports, and so when I go to India, I try to participate as much as I can. I ran the Mumbai Marathon, and I play a lot of tennis at the Rajpath Club in Ahmedabad.
Rajpath Club, Ahmedabad, you play tennis there?
That's my second home.
Okay.
Narendra Modi once told me that if I wanted to run in Baroda instead of Barrie, I'd get elected.
I'm sure you would get elected, because everyone I talk to here in Canada, they talk about Patrick Bhai. Now also, when it comes to marathon, what's your best time? And you're just 36, isn't it?
36 years old.
And an MP at 27.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, my best marathon time is close to 3:10, 3:11. But these days I'm doing too much politics. I'm not sure I'd run that today. I need to get back in shape.
Okay. And what about the economic shape of India-Canada relations? What is the target you can set for the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, there's a number of things. The mandate is still to triple the trade, but I think you're going to see the doors unlocked by this economic framework agreement. Once that gets signed, I think you'll see a flourishing of trade. The other things I think we can work upon is, there is technology when it comes to energy production that we can share. There is technology when it comes to marine economic development. Obviously, the diamond sector is particularly strong in India as it is in the north of Canada. You look at Surat, or you look at the Northern Territories in Canada, there are some similarities there. And then the student-to-student growth. The reality is we're having more students from India than ever before come to study in Canada, and I think that's very helpful to the relationship, because it's cementing that people-to-people connections.
So the maximum number of students come from other countries is from India, and that's about 15,000 every year?
And it's growing every year. And so, we're very proud of that connection, and it's one that we're trying to grow.
What would you like to tell the students in India who sometimes think about Canada and think, maybe, yes, I can go there?
What I'd say about Canada is, in some countries, they say, forget where you come from. In Canada, we say, what makes us great is our diversity. What makes this country tick is that we are a mosaic. And you can come here, discover a fascinating new country, while at the same time never be concerned about forgetting who you are, what your ancestry is, and the fact that you may be a proud Indo-Canadian.
Okay, also when it comes to Narendra Modi, he calls you Patrick Bhai, you trust him a lot. What has he told you when he talks to you as a person, and how does he relate to you?
He's always action-oriented. What I admire about him is when we're talking about any subject, he'll be, what are the achievable goals? There's always a sense of purpose with Narendra Modi, but I think that's something everyone in India has already discovered. There's that sense of greater calling that is so persuasive.
One big thing that he needs from Canada is a stable supply of uranium for the Indian nuclear reactors. Do you think India is going to get that deal this time?
Well, I'm not going to prejudge the talks that take place, but I know Canada is going to be a long-standing friend. And whether it's on uranium, whether it is on potash, whether it is on potable water technologies, I think there's going to be a continuing exchange of talent in each country, and you're only going to see that explode over the next number of years.
Okay, my last question to you. A lot of people here say that sooner or later you have to become the Prime Minister of Canada. If that happens, what will that mean for India and Canada?
You know, my goal is to become Premier of Ontario, and what I would like to do in Ontario is to see an explosion of growth, see an explosion of jobs, to unravel the potential that exists in this province like we've seen occur in Gujarat. And you will have someone that is dedicated, principled, and will focus solely on the goal of making this province greater and vibrant.
Do you speak Gujarati at all?
No, that's on my list of things I'm going to have to learn.
So next thing that your target after, if you become the Chief Minister of Ontario, is to learn Gujarati as well.
I'll take some side lessons in Gujarati. But I do say that I'm an unofficial Guju.
Thank you so much. So very down to earth, a realist. When I talk about him becoming the Premier of Canada, he says first target is Ontario. But this is for the archive. If he becomes the Prime Minister of Canada, we hope to become the first channel to interview Mr. Patrick Brown. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for the privilege of having this interview today.
Thanks. Take care, sir.